has come, the walrus said. So I will call to order the June 4th, 2020 special meeting of the Fort Ord Reuse Authority Board of Directors. Our first item of business is closed session. So council, will you alert us as to what we will be discussing?
Yeah, of course. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair, members of the board and public. The board will adjourn to closed session on 4 separate items listed as 2A through D on the agenda, which was amended yesterday to include a recently filed litigation. Item 2A is conference with legal counsel, Government Code Section 54956.9D2. Anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation. There's one potential case to discuss. 2B, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. That is based on a receipt of a claim pursuant to the Government Claims Act by Resource Environmental, Inc. 2C, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2, based on receipt of a notice of intent to sue from Keep Fort Ord Wild. And finally, 2D, conference with legal counsel, Government Code Section 54956.9A California Native Plant Society versus Fort Ord Reuse Authority et al. Monterey County Superior Court case number 20CV1529. That's a matter of pending litigation as of Tuesday when it was filed. And we'll be addressing all 4 of those items in closed session.
Thank you. This is a time that we ask if there's any public comment on any of the items that will be being discussed in closed session. So if you're attending, if you would raise your hand in the Zoom raise hand, by pushing that little button, which you can find by clicking on the participants tab on your screen. Or we also find that people raise their hands the old-fashioned way, and I need help with that. So is there, Harry or Josh, do you see, I don't see any blue hands. Do you see any flesh and blood hands?
Well, Ron's got his hand on his cheek, but I think he's holding his question for later.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Great. With that, then we will close public comment, and we will do the magical thing of moving from this Zoom room into the closed session room. We'll be back.
Can't hear you. Unmute.
Did you get her haircut, Mayor?
Yeah, I needed more than that after this last 2 weeks.
You haven't pulled all your hair out?
No, I'm just amazed at people's ability to help create more problems.
Yeah.
But you live in the Monterey Bay Area.
Yeah. Well, when the Pickens get to Carmel this weekend, I want to know how they're doing. I think Saturday they're going to Carmel.
I'll keep you posted.
Better you than me. They'll be back to me on Sunday. They've been here.
Make sure they open the gate. They get into the where the beautiful people are.
Well,
yeah, we're to charge of double on the
well, the one guy brought his own Molotov cocktail to our friggin' nonviolent rally. We're just rolling here.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and reconvene the open session of the June 4th, 2020 special meeting of the Fort Ord Reuse Authority Board of Directors. Council, could you announce any action taken in closed session?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Members of the board and public, the board met in closed session on items 2A through 2D. 2A was conference with legal counsel. That was an anticipated litigation matter, one potential case. The board gave direction to counsel, but there's nothing to report out. And as to 2B, C, and D, council reported to the board the developments in each of those matters, 2 anticipated litigation matters and 1 pending litigation matter, the California Native Plant Society case, which was filed on Tuesday, and there's nothing to report out on any of those 3 matters.
Thank you. We will move now to announcements, acknowledgements, and correspondence. Mr. Metz, what have we got?
Thank you, Chair, and members of the board and the Monterey Bay community. Again, we've had a busy week of receiving various letters, and so I'll report on those. But before doing that, I just would like to acknowledge all that's going on in this world. We started with a short time frame to get a large amount of work done in January. Then we got ourselves into a global pandemic in March, and now we've been economic collapse along with that, and now we're confronting all of this very important social unrest. I think it's important that the conversations are happening. Obviously, needs to go without being said, but Black lives do matter. They matter really strongly to me. I can say that working at Fora over the years, one of the points of strength that I found, and I think the strength of the organization, was its diversity, and us coming together and getting work done on behalf of the community was all made more possible because of that diversity. So even while the issues are perhaps inconvenient to deal with in the cities and the communities for many, and certainly there are bad actors among them, I think the messages that are coming out are really important to be heard. So just acknowledging all the work that folks are doing, accommodating. I know the city of Seaside's been holding a number of nonviolent activities, and I know Salinas has been working on that, but I hope this all leads us to a better place. So I just acknowledging all of that, I would say that correspondence, we've received a number of them. Let's say, I'll run down the list here. June 2nd, we received a letter from the Stamp Erickson Law Firm to the Fora Board, which was passed along. Also June 2nd, the United Veterans Council of Monterey and the County of Monterey Military and Veterans Affairs offices submitted correspondence. June 3rd, we got a letter from LAFCO that was transmitted early this morning, came in after hours. And I would say that's the conclusion of the list of correspondence. Did I miss anything there, Harry?
No, you got everything.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Tregenza, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Supervisor Jane Parker.
Here.
Supervisor John Phillips.
Here.
Supervisor Ray Adams.
Yeah, here.
Councilmember John Gagliotti.
Here.
Councilmember Frank O'Connell.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gail Morton.
Here.
Councilmember Alan Hoffa.
Here.
Mayor Ian Oglesby.
Here.
Councilmember John Wizard. Is John Wizard here?
Seen him yet.
Okay. Mayor Marianne Carbone. Oh, I saw her earlier. All right, well, I'll come back. Mayor Joe Gunter,
Here.
Councilmember Cynthia Garfield,
Here.
Councilmember Janet Reimers,
Here.
Katie Moon, Colleen Courtney, Erica Parker, Debbie Hale, if she's here, Debbie Hale, Dr. P.K. Diffenbaugh,
Here.
Steve Matarazzo, Dr. Eduardo Ochoa,
Present.
Colonel Gregory Ford,
Here.
Bill Collins,
Here.
David Martin,
Here.
Lisa Reinheimer, and Jan Schreiner.
Here.
And John Wizard or Mayor Marianne Carbone. All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for being here. Welcome. We'll move now to the consent calendar. Is there any member of the public who would like to pull either of the items on consent? If you would raise your hand in the Zoom or raise your hand the old-fashioned way, we'll look for you. All right, I don't see any hands going up. Any member of the board wishing to pull any of either of the consent items for question or comment? If you would raise your hand. Gail Morton.
So 6B on the retention separation package. I
Okay.
had a couple of questions, and I see that Ms. Park is present, so I thought she was present perhaps to answer some of these questions. So this package talks about what the staff has done or worked with the board in accomplishing, but we don't see a cost figure, and some of it might just be, I don't see a cost figure. And is this in fact already in the budget, or is this additional funds coming from our unallocated 1.3 million?
Has some slides that he go through to go over the specifics of it.
Yeah, give me a second here.
Thank you for taking the time to answer the questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So for the question with regards to whether this is already in the budget, yes, this is already in the existing mid-year budget. So what we have done is, in light of additional people leaving, the thought is to reallocate those funds. And Josh is going to put this presentation forward to you.
Oh, and which one am I sharing here? Am I sharing, can you see the slide deck?
It says amendment summary.
Yes, that's it. So before that, this is the highlights of the accomplishments amidst adversity that I think is worth noting. I summarized some of that at the beginning. But, you know, this team, in working with this board, has accomplished delivered a year's worth of business in 6 months. We have held 15 notice board meetings, 22 notice administrative committee meetings, worked to allocate over $28 million worth of funds, and we're on the steps of completing the ESCA and LRA transition, and about pending issue of $30 million worth of building removal bonds, all amidst a transition to remote operations and global pandemic situation, which significantly affected the jobs market when the initial retention and separation package was put forward. Things were much different. It was the lowest unemployment rate in decades. Now we're perhaps at the worst unemployment in multiple decades, close to the Great Depression era. And so what we're asking is that the board reallocate funds that were originally intended to cover a much larger group. There's been 5 of us staff who have stuck through to the end and will continue to be working through the end of this month to complete major pieces of work. And so that we are asking that those funds simply be reallocated to allow those of us here getting that work done to have additional time to find our next landing pad. So this is our recommendation, and we can certainly answer any further questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Metz. Director Morton, did you have any follow-up questions?
So just, we still didn't have an amount. That was one question. I don't think.
Yeah, it was $125,000 for five staff.
So the 125,000 would have been dispersed for post-separation payments among a larger staff. And what you're asking now is that because the 5 individuals that have stayed have taken on the greater responsibilities, the responsibilities of a larger staff.
Yes.
A smaller number of people have stayed for the expected duration.
That's right.
That you're concentrating the efforts to those that have stayed.
Indeed.
No change to the budget allocation. It's already within there. And it still doesn't take away the 1.3 million unallocated funds with which we're trying to meet all of our other obligations.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Very important.
Thank you. Any other board members with comments or questions on this item? All right, so if you're comfortable, then we will take the consent calendar. I guess one question I would have is the board's interest or comfort with taking this action today, as opposed to if there's $125,000 that is essentially available in this item, would you want to bring this back next week to decide whether allocating it to the staff or to the multitude of other needs, or would you like to take the action today? And I guess if your answer is take the action today, someone could make a motion and we can go ahead. Or if you have other thoughts, Cynthia Garfield, yes.
Thank you. I move that we accept the proposal from staff to reallocate money that's already been budgeted for longevity purposes to the few remaining staff who stuck it out, and thank them for sticking it out to get us through the end.
Thank you.
And I'll second that motion.
So is that a motion to approve the total consent calendar today?
Motion to what?
Approve the consent calendar.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be a motion to just approve the consent calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Is the seconder all right with that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will ask Mr. Tregenza to call the roll for the vote.
Supervisor Jane Parker.
Aye.
Supervisor John Phillips.
Aye.
Supervisor Mary Adams.
Aye.
Councilmember John Gagliotti.
Aye.
Councilmember Frank O'Connell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gail Morton.
Yes.
Councilmember Alan Hoffa.
Yes.
Mayor Ian Oglesby.
Aye.
Mayor Marianne Carbone.
Aye.
Mayor Joe Gunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Cynthia Garfield.
Aye.
And Councilmember Janet Reimers.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We will move now to our scheduled business items. And the first of that is ESCA related. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Metz, do you want to start that off?
Yeah, and then I'll certainly hand off to our super highly qualified and hardworking ESCA LRA team that is led by, of course, Stan Cook and Laura Vidori, but also includes many of the folks who you see and on this call and know well. Mr. Michael Hulamart among them, on behalf of the city of Seaside, Barry Steinberg and George Schlossberg, and now increasingly the city of Seaside staff. So this is a report and then a recommended resolution to allow us to complete the processing of the movement of the of ESCA and the LRA and the EDC to the city of Seaside. So Stan, take it away. Are you there, Stan?
I'm here. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board. I'm going to take it a little bit slow because there's a lot of moving pieces in here. I think we may have the record for the largest board report. I'll be assisted by Barry Steinberg and George Schlossberg. If there are any questions that are on the federal level. So we were tasked with implementing the board and Seaside's agreement for the Seaside to be the ESCA successor for not only the local redevelopment agency, the LRA, but also for the economic development conveyance memorandum of agreement and that transfers properties, and also for the ESCA. They all three work together to support the ESCA, especially since Forest still owns some properties that need to be transferred to the jurisdictions, and they're ESCA properties. We've worked diligently since February 21 when that agreement was prepared. And I can touch a few highlights of what we did because it's important to know the background. We've been working with the Army to go over what would normally be called a scope of work in the ESCA because many things have been completed. The majority has been completed. The only things that remain are long-term obligations to the property, which include things like making sure the deeds don't accidentally lose some of the restrictions that are in them, like residential use restrictions in some areas. Or that, and note the other long-term obligations that are there and make sure that they are, the jurisdictions are helped with those in the management of those long-term obligations. The next one was to work with the Army to complete their what are called CERCLA warranties. That means they will come back and do additional cleanup if something is discovered. This doesn't mean things that are covered by the insurance that policies that may out there, the pollution legal liability insurance policy, but it's basically saying that they'll come back if there's munitions items discovered there. And it also releases the restrictions on those deeds of those properties. That's about 2,500 some acres that has a restriction on it that can only be used for munitions remediation or installation of roadways and utilities. So that those properties have much more uses out there and whatever they are. And so that removes those and it makes them conform with what DTSC and EPA have already done through certifications of site-wide remedial completion. The next one is to make sure all the contracts that are there have the proper assignments. There are certain certain protections that go with some of those contracts, and there are contracts to provide support services by the highly qualified team we have here that knows this property inside and out and holds the records internally, and they have staff that knows how, so we don't have to go through learning curves every time we need to do something on our property. Then there's the right of entries that are out there. We have to transition them to Seaside. There's the remedial services agreement. We have to sign that. There has to be notification and coordination with US EPA to transfer that agreement, the administrative order on consent, to the ESCA holder, ESCA successor. Finally, we need to coordinate with Seaside to do the actual moving of forest staff, ESCA staff, to a place in Seaside where we can continue to do the work we're doing. There's a list of quite a few attachments in here. There's the quitclaim deed templates. That's the FORA out deed template. That's a template that will be made site specific for the 7 property recipients that are in the ESCA. There's deed releases and restrictions. They're also, it's a little confusing in the package, so I want to take a minute to stop here and say those are also titled quitclaim deeds. But if you read down below it, that releases the circle warranty, gives a circle warranty and provides deed releases. There'll be one for each of the listed parties in there, which are the county, CSUMB, Seaside, MPC, Monterey, Delray Oaks, and Monterey Peninsula Regional Parks District. Then there's the, to be able to transfer the Economic Development Conveyance Memorandum of Agreement to the City of Seaside, there has to be an amendment to the EDC. That's in there, and that transfers it to Seaside. Would transfer it to Seaside once executed. There's the a letter in there, a draft letter in there to assign the RSA, remedial service agreement between FORA and Arcadis to the City of Seaside. There's Army ESCA releases, which is basically the rework of the TSRS, the ESCA scope of work. It's called the TSRS. And then there's the successor fund assignment. That's where any funds that are needed for long-term management in the ESCA would be assigned from FORA over to Seaside. And then there's the FORA ESCA long-term obligation management support service contracts. These are the ones with the 3 qualified contractors, Arcadis, Weston, and Westcliff. And Seaside will need those to continue. Then there's the AIG insurance policy that's attached. That's the baseline bottom insurance policy. We had a cost cap portion. It's been expended, but there's 2 other portions to that policy that provide some environmental protections and some warranties. So that's in there. Then we have the resolution. The resolution basically restates the agreement, the TPIA, the FORA Seaside successor implementing agreement, and then continues with the actions, providing details on the funds that will be transferred, and providing for permission for the executive officer to execute all these documents that I've been referring to. And that's my report. Sorry it took so long, but that's it.
Pretty short considering all those documents. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Any questions from board members at this point? While I wait for hands, I did have a question. It seems like these documents are still in process. Are they going to be reviewed in their final form by Kutak Rock or someone to make sure that what the executive officer is signing is?
Yes, they will be. They are actually being created by Kutak Rock.
Okay. Great, thank you. Director Morton, your hand is up.
So, yes, I have to say that this was an extensive staff report and with less than 48 hours to review it, made it very difficult for those of us that aren't as knowledgeable as you are, Stan. One of the questions that I have is, one of the exhibits is a quitclaim deed to extinguish certain land use controls, modify certain land use controls, and issue a CERCLA warranty. What is the CERCLA warranty? And I've read the language, but it's also still confusing. Are the protections for the property and the munitions cleanup controls and or limitations of development in the future still consistent after these quitclaim deeds are executed?
I'm going to turn that over to Mr. George Schlossberg or Barry Steinberg.
Thank you.
George, you're on mute.
Actually, I think that one would be better for Barry.
Okay. Scrolling.
And Barry's on mute.
Barry, you're on mute. There you are.
There I am. Now I'm not. There are two controlling documents that I think play into the answer. The first is the Superfund statute, the CERCLA Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act statute that applies to the Fort Ord property. Under that statute, the Army at the time of transfer in the deed is obligated to give us a warranty that states all action necessary to protect human health and the environment has been taken. And if you find something later, we'll come back and fix it. Now, there's another provision in the statute that says you can defer that and do what is known as an early transfer, which we did here in order to combine it with the grant money that we got from the Secretary of the Army to perform the Army's environmental remediation obligations for munitions and explosives of concern. So what we have been doing for the last 10 years is basically the Army's job, and the Army paid us to do it, I think with a reasonable expectation that we could do it quicker, cheaper, and better. And I think that the facts demonstrate that we have been able to do it quicker, cheaper, and better. Now that it is finished, we are going back to the Army as the statute provides and says, okay, we finished. DTSC agrees we finished. EPA agrees that we finished. We've given you, we cut down a whole lot of trees to present paper to you to show you that we finished. And so we would like for you now to give us the warranty that was deferred and remove the restrictions that basically said the only thing we could do with the property was clean it up. The second document that I'm referring to is the reuse plan. The reuse plan identified where within the former Fort Ord there was an intent to put residential housing. And so the cleanup level that we worked to was designed to get us to the clearances from the regulatory agencies that would allow us, in fact, to put the residential units out there. So where we have restrictions on the deeds right now that say no residential, no child care center, no overnight camping, whatever they say that would prohibit a residential use, we're saying to the Army, move those restrictions. They're no longer required. You don't need them because we've cleaned it up to a level that the regulators have agreed is safe for that future intended purpose. So put those two things together, the work that we've done to satisfy the cleanup level for the reuse plan and the requirement of the statute that says, give us the CERCLA warranty now that we finished. That's what we are looking for in each of the deeds that you're going to, that you have a template for it right now. George and I have spent a rather interesting week on one particular issue involved with that, and ultimately about 3 hours ago resolved that issue favorably for the Fort Ord communities. And so that's essentially what you're seeing. We didn't have the normal CERCLA warranty that we're entitled to because we were cleaning it up. We've now cleaned it up. The regulators are satisfied. The evidence demonstrates that we've done the right thing. There are some continuing restrictions that are in place, some reinforced by municipal code, such as, the digging permit issues and access to water and things like that. But generally, the property we wanted to clean to a level that would support residential. We have in fact done that, And now the Army is in the process of giving us the documents that say, yes, you may do that.
Thank you. And so if in fact that's all been done, why is all of the land to which you just described going to the city of Seaside, or why wouldn't it just go to the jurisdictions? Is it just time?
No, for the properties where we have finished our job and all of the transfers are going to take place, our objective is to move those properties as quickly as possible to the jurisdictions, not for Seaside to hold them. The only thing that Seaside will hold is the properties that may be held up on some technical issue with this. And in addition, Seaside has taken on basically the oversight and management of the long-term obligations, which continue. So this is not an opportunity to invest Seaside with everybody else's property. The name of the game is move it as quickly out of Fora and out of Seaside when the documents support that action.
Yeah, if I could, there are 12 deeds. I think that the Seaside deed was used as a format and a template, but we were given 12 deeds by the Army for all of the land use jurisdictions. We negotiated the clauses. The one that you see in the Seaside deed is the result. And as of this morning, when we got a favorable result, 7 of the deeds are now in final form on their way for execution. I believe the Army is waiting to see the vote tonight. The other 5 will be revised tomorrow in accordance with that and will also go forward. So all of the land use will be transferred.
That explains some of this. So thank you very much for that, is that they're going directly to the underlying land use jurisdictions. And so if in fact this action is taken and we're authorizing Josh Metz as our executive officer to execute these, this would be with review, final review by your office, and that is to Barry and George.
Yes, I'd like to say something. The property will be conveyed by the Army to Fora, and we have another document you have there is the out deed. So it won't be conveyed directly to the land use jurisdictions. It will be a simultaneous Army to Fora, Fora to land use jurisdiction, recorded simultaneously. And yes, we are preparing the original documents for review by the Army and your council.
And then the other terms and conditions, it's a very long redacted portion in our file, in our staff report. That was reviewed and prepared by your office or modified by your office in interlineating changes for Seaside rather than Fora?
That's the
TSRS. To your oversight?
That's the TSRS.
Yes, we did review that. We are Fora's counsel, and we prepared it on behalf of Fora.
Okay, and so in your review, all of this was satisfactory and is protecting Fora from any liability. And when we sunset, we're not expecting anybody else to be sitting at the ready to accept liability, correct?
If you want us to promise you that no lawyer would take an action that was frivolous and not justified, I don't think George and I can go quite that far. We've worked.
Not asking. Yeah.
Yes. To the
not
best
asking for that, but just trying to make sure that these documents have been refined and worked over by Fora's counsel and are fully satisfactory. None of us had an opportunity to fully review them or even the intelligence of knowledge to understand the legal effects. So that's why I'm asking these questions. Thank you for answering.
To the best of our ability, it has been a team effort. We have reviewed the documents. The Fora staff has reviewed the documents. We have negotiated them very extensively. The last versions were transmitted just this morning. So to some extent, the documents you have, that's why it shows continuous red lines cross out, interdelineate, et cetera. but we believe they
Okay.
are agreeable and final.
And you're recommending that we approve them as a board?
Yes, we are recommending that you approve them.
Thank you very much for that statement.
Thank you. Any other board members with questions before I open it up to the public? I will just ask, once the documents have been signed by our executive officer, where will they be so that the public can find them?
Oh, go ahead, George.
Well, all of the EDC amendments are recorded with the county recorder. All of the deeds will be recorded with the county recorder. Over the years, and we have worked with FORA for over 20 years in this regard, we have compiled transcripts of all of the relevant documents that comprise FORA's legal history. Several of the volumes have been already created. They are electronically searchable. They are in hard copy library bound edition for placement in your library, and we intend to complete that at the end of the day to bring them current. Electronically, we will present you with CDs to that effect and thumb drives. I'm not quite certain where electronically they will be stored, but the hard volumes will be made available for the library.
Yeah, in addition to that, I would add that all of the documents that were prepared over the years having to do with the investigation and remediation work and the exchanges with the regulators, all of that is in an administrative record, which is required to be maintained under federal regulatory authority. And one of the responsibilities that's being transferred from FORA to Seaside in this case, and ultimately within the jurisdiction, there will be a central repository known as the administrative record. Right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Stan, but the administrative record is actually online on a FORA.org website. But ultimately, that will the hard copies will be located someplace, and there will be a continuity of filing of documents pertaining to the actual remedial work, not just the legal work. And it will be available. It is available to the public right now.
Yes, that's housed on the official record under the EPA, and their circle, and the AOC is housed with the Army's administrative record. It's available online at FortOrdCleanup.com. The contract documents between FORA and other organizations will transfer to Seaside. The hard copy library that sits in the FORA CIC is being packed up and has been packed up and will be moved by the city of Seaside here within the next week to their offices.
If I might. In addition,
Yes.
the city of Seaside will be considering these same documents. It'll be published on their board report. And as well, they will be a repository of the ESCA and the related documents on the EDC, since they will be adopting them.
Great, thank you. Just wanted to have that out there. Is there any member of the public who would like to ask a question or make a comment on this item? You can raise your hand in the Zoom by going to the participants tab and finding the raise hand button at the bottom.
There's Mr. Cheshire. He's got his hand off his cheek.
Okay, thank you. My sharp-eyed regular hand spotter. Mr. Cheshire, go ahead.
Ron Cheshire on behalf of the Monterey Santa Cruz Building and Construction Trades Council is, I think we understand the process fully. We just want to make something clear. We were asking a question. Is these remaining parcels will be transferred from the federal government, from the Army, to the Fort Ord Reuse Authority, to where they then will go out to the jurisdictions. Therefore, they will be subject to the implementation agreements with the landholding jurisdictions and Exhibit F? I guess that's the question.
Thank you. Just a second. Let's see if is that the extent of your public comment, Ron?
Yes, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
you know, the property, in other words, they're going to be transferred like every other parcel that has been transferred so far, is that the federal government transferred to FORA. FORA went ahead and transferred to the jurisdictions, the landholding jurisdictions, but had basically put their requirements on them, which was the implementation agreement, Exhibit F, and such
Great.
and such.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other member of the public who would like to ask a question or make a comment on this item? I'm not seeing any blue Zoom hands. Mr. Metz, any human
Not
hands?
seeing any, no.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment, and then, yes, if someone could respond to Mr. Cheshire's question, that would be great.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick stab at it. I looked through the documents, and the template that you see there is the same template that's been used for all of the transfers of four-door property from FORA to the jurisdictions. I noticed that because we have to work off a website, and as you scroll through things, the template, if you scroll too fast, you go straight to the quick clean deeds that release provide the circle of warranty and release the restrictions that are currently on the property. Those are a different type of deed, so there's a difference in them. So the idea is that all the properties that FORA holds now to use the same out deed template that we've always used. George, you want to add anything to that?
No, we proposed that the deeds, the out deeds are exactly the same template that has been used over the years. And that references the implementation agreement.
Don't go changing here at the end.
Thank you. Good, so I will bring this back to the board for action or any further discussion. It doesn't look like there's discussion. I don't see any hands going up. So if someone wanted to make a motion, I think that would be appropriate.
Approve the motion.
Thank you. We've got a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
I'll second. Carbone.
Thank you. You got that, Mr. Tregenza, the maker and the seconder?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? I'm not seeing any hands, so go ahead, Mr. Tregenza, and you can take a roll call vote for us.
Supervisor Jane Parker.
Aye.
Supervisor John Phillips.
Aye.
Supervisor Mary Adams.
Aye.
Councilmember John Gagliotti.
Aye.
Councilmember Frank O'Connell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gail Morton.
Yes.
Councilmember Alan Hoffa.
Yes.
Mayor Ian Oglesby.
Aye.
Councilmember John Wizard.
Aye.
Mayor Mary Ann Carbone.
Aye.
Mayor Joe Gunter.
Aye.
Councilmember Cynthia Garfield.
Aye.
Councilmember Janet Reimers.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thanks,
I'd like to
everyone.
thank
And thanks
everybody.
for all the work that's gone into this and will continue to.
Chair?
I think Stan has something he'd like to say. if
Okay,
Chair.
yes, please, go ahead, Mr. Cook.
Chair, I'd just like to thank the entire team that's worked on this, from Laura to Michael, who's no longer, he's on this call with us, but he's not there. But I'd just like to thank everybody, including FORA Special Counsel, who has since this thing was assigned, I know that there has not been one day that we've not been on the phone or working on documents. So thank you very much for everybody on the team.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Yes, here, here, and thank you, Stan, and the entire team. We'll move now to agenda
Mayor
item.
Oglesby, oh, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Chair. I saw Mayor Oglesby's hand up.
Oh, all right. Yes, Mayor Oglesby.
I'll just take about 30 seconds. I just want to thank Stan and his team and Michael Hulamar and what he's done over the years, and definitely what Josh has done over the last, his tenure. Our two attorneys working with us at the federal level, making sure we're in a position as the LRA to receive that property and just shoot it back out to the land use jurisdictions. Seaside as a city has nothing to do with it. As the LRA, Stan is going to tell us that we received the land from the Army, sign this document, send it out to land use jurisdictions. That's what we will do. So that'll be the process. We look forward to doing it. Thank the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And the board.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you. We will move now to agenda item 7B. This is the Campus Town Consistency Determination.
Yeah, so I'll get us started. You know, this project, you know, I started hearing about it a few years back. We were pleased to have, you know, completed the regional urban design guidelines before that. And then we were hearing from the developer and design and his team about their interest in the urban design guidelines that this board had unanimously approved in 2016, and the efforts they were taking to really dive into those and have them be influential on the design of this project. And I'm really pleased to see what they've come forward with. I know this has been a lot of work with the city of Seaside and their team. There was one page, it was probably page 56 or something like that in the base reuse plan, where there was a little image. I might just take a second quickly to divert and flash it up on the screen here for y'all to take a walk down memory lane that showed the areas around the CSUMB campus that were proposed for urban use for the core of the redevelopment area of Fort Ord. And the Campus Town project is represented by this shaded area. And that really became, you know, a focus for a lot of our discussions. And I think was just speaks to the quality of the project here, reflecting community interests. And so we were pleased to receive the submittal from the city and the developer. I know they put a lot of work into getting it well organized for us. And this board did approve the retention of RGS planning expert Steve Flint to process the consistency determination review for us. And he did that in collaboration with staff, having myself been through a few of these consistency determinations. You know, we did reflect at one point that these consistency determinations were one of the early, certainly California state defined functions of FORA to ensure that the reuse of Fort Ord fit a regional vision. So I'm just very pleased to see this here before us, and we were able to efficiently come to a conclusion that this is indeed consistent with the base reuse plan. That was also supported by the administrative committee unanimously making that recommendation for you. And so I'll pass it over to Steve Flint, who will walk us through a short presentation on the item, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you, Josh. Chair Parker and members of the board. I'm Steve Flint with Regional Government Services. RGS was brought in to do an objective third-party analysis of the consistency of the specific plan with the Fort Ord or the FORA reuse plan. So with that, Let me share a screen. There we go. Can you see that?
Nope.
It says
Not yet.
screen has failed to share.
Hey, Steve, if need be, I can share it on my end and kind of click through for you. If that would help us move more efficiently. Or maybe Kendall, your IT expert.
Called in the doctor.
I'm in here right now.
IT is helping me out.
Josh, the screen share is shut off for other folks other than you and the.
Okay.
That's why it's not working.
I'll turn it on right now.
Okay, Harry can manage that. I don't mind.
Yeah, I think Josh, maybe share it. I'm not.
Why don't I just do it on this end and you can just tell me to advance the slides, Steve?
Okay, that'll work.
Oh, wait,
oh,
no.
here we go. I got it.
I think we got it. Start.
Great. Okay.
Are we on?
IT to the rescue.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm glad somebody knows what they're doing around here. That's great.
Right.
Okay, so let's begin. Just a little background. On March 19th, the City of Seaside City Council unanimously adopted a resolution that certified the environmental impact report that included substantial mitigation monitoring and reporting program in accordance with CEQA. Also adopted an ordinance approving the campus town specific plan together with other implementing ordinances and resolutions that modified the city's general plan and zoning ordinance and zoning maps. April 30th, City of Seaside submitted the campus specific plan to FORA for their consistency determination. And that package, as you probably saw from the board report, was pretty substantial. There was a lot of information, and as Josh pointed out, was very detailed and really was a very complete package and made it easier to go through. And then on May 20th, the FORA Administrative Committee and the Planners Working Group reviewed the consistency report and recommended that the FORA board certify the City of Seaside's general plan circulation element amendments, the zoning map and text amendments, creating the campus town specific plan district, and the campus town specific plan and the various entitlements for development, and is consistent. Again, as background, this is the location. You can see that it is east of Highway 1. Runs basically from 1st Avenue to 7th Avenue, is crossed by General Jim Road, and is Giggling Road to the south and the campus to the north. Wrong direction. So the components of the project consist of 1,485 housing units, 250 hotel rooms, 75 youth hostel beds, 200,000 square feet of non-residential use, including 150,000 square feet of retail, dining and entertainment, and 50,000 square feet of office, flex areas, makerspace, which in the old days we referred to as a work-live arrangement, and then light industrial uses, with the balance being parks, recreation, and open space on about 122 acres. This is the process that we've been going through. We are on the final step at the bottom of the right-hand side. The report did include detailed description of the consistency based on Chapter 8 of the Master Resolution. And basically, we'll go through the findings that will be made or have to be made in order to approve it. And the wording is such that the board shall disapprove if any of these following things occur. So for example, the first one says provide a land use designation that allows more intensive land uses than those permitted in the reuse plan. So in this case, the The uses are not more intense. In fact, they're very consistent with the uses that were recommended in the plan itself. For commercial uses, the floor area ratio was 0.25. This is the 200,000 square feet of commercial area, commercial and light industrial, I should say, is substantially less than what would be allowed at a 0.25 FAR. Second item says that the project is not more dense than the reuse plan would allow. And in this case, the density is 25 units to the acre that would be permitted. This is substantially less than that. It's closer to probably 12 units to the acre if you look at the entire area of the site compared to the number of units that could be built there. Let's see. The third item would say that it's not in conformance with the applicable programs of Section 8.02 of the Master Resolution. And having gone through all those documents, I can tell you that they are all consistent with the various programs, including the habitat maintenance plan. And the next one says that you have to provide uses that are not in conflict or incompatible with the uses adjacent, including open space, recreation, and habitat. The plan itself is very compatible with and is complementary to the surrounding, particularly the university uses to the north. This plan was designed to provide support for that use, and I think will be a great mix, actually, of uses with the university. It does not require financing or the provision of financing other than what it will provide itself. And in this case, it's anticipated that a community facilities district will be formed that will pay for most of the infrastructure as well as the upfront costs that will be provided by the developer of the project itself. The next item, it does not require or otherwise provide for the implementation of a habitat management plan. The project itself will be compliant with that plan, so there will be no requirement for outside management for that type of use. The next one, which are actually additional, the first six are kind of mandatory. The next ones are additional considerations. One is that it is, if it's not consistent with the Highway 1 design corridor, it can't be approved. In this case, it's not affected by the design corridor. It doesn't abut the design corridor itself. The next item is that it would not be consistent with the jobs housing balance of the master resolution. The city does have a current housing program. Their affordable housing requirements are pretty substantial, and it does not conflict at all with the requirements for job housing balance. And the last item is that it would not be consistent with the prevailing wage policy, which the development agreement itself that was approved does provide for. So essentially our recommendation is, or what the staff's recommendation is that the full board approve a resolution certifying the city's general plan circulation element amendments, the zoning map and text amendments that create the Campus Town specific plan district, the Campus Town specific plan itself, development entitlements of the Campus Town project, and determine that they are consistent with the four-road base reuse plan. And with that, we'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Flint. Any questions from board members at this point? All right. Yes, Director Morton.
So I did have a question. So Steve, you indicated that it was consistent with prevailing wage requirements of the master resolution.
Actually, that's not in the master resolution, but it was included in the development agreement. That came after.
So the development agreements does require the payment, the executed development agreements for this project requires prevailing wage throughout the development, even after July 1, 2020.
That is my understanding. Josh can corroborate my understanding.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. We got Mr. Danny Bakewell Jr. on the line who can probably address that directly himself. If you want to.
Sure. Okay, yes. As part of KB Bakewell's agreement with the city of Seaside, we have agreed that this is a prevailing wage project throughout, including at the dissolution of FORA come the end of June 2020.
Thank you.
Okay, because in the consistency determination at page 23, it's indicating that it's paying prevailing wage pursuant to Labor Code 1720 at sequence, which is applicable to public works projects, and or if it's the second criteria in your grid, Steve, was that if there was a recorded covenant encumbering the property. So what you're indicating is that in addition to that is the development agreement and those terms, and that's what is controlling, and Mr. Bakewell is conferring his understanding.
Right, and the attorneys could probably answer that as well, but it's my understanding that development agreements are binding. It's a binding legal agreement.
And
Sherry Damon, I believe, is also here who could address that if need be.
I was going to throw it to Sherry.
Thanks, Danny. Sherry Damon, City of Seaside. Yes, the development agreement is going to be a recorded document and has actually been sent to the recorder's office, so it's being recorded. Hopefully, it's already been recorded. I just don't have the conformed copy back.
Okay, and that recorded document says prevailing wage further than just in compliance with labor code, that labor code section. It's just incongruous on this grid sheet provided to us by Mr. Flint, and that's why I don't know upon what to rely.
Yeah, that was provided as sort of an outline. So any clarifications we can provide for any of those items. I should point out there was another item in there that basically said that the city of Seaside did not prohibit gambling. And I know that whether or not a casino could be built on this site was a major issue early on. And in fact, Chapter 5 of Seaside's municipal code does include Section 5.40 that strictly prohibits any kind of gambling, either card games or through machines. So while the code-based zoning that is built into the specific plan provides for determinations of uses that can be considered similar in use, in this case, there would be nothing that would be similar to a casino that would be permitted because gambling is illegal in the city.
And then the other question I had is, what is the water demand for this project?
Water demand, give me a second here. I didn't have that right at my fingertips.
Maybe Sherry would be able to address that. Sherry, do you want to jump in here?
Let's stick with Mr. Flint. He's making the presentation. If he runs into trouble, he can call on other people.
Yeah, at this point, I believe that the requirement for the project itself is over 1,000 acre-feet per year. And at this point, there's not that amount that is available. But again, this project is going to be built in phases. And it is also not the issuance of building permits, so that if the water is not available at the time that the units are proposed to be built, the building permits would not be issued because they couldn't prove that they have available water.
And so the 1,000 acre feet per year, is that consistent with the water allocations among the authority's development and resource management plan? Does Seaside have adequate water?
Again, the city's portion of the floor allocation is 1,012.5 acre feet per year. And the city allocated 831.9 acre feet to other projects, so that there's really only 180.6 acre feet per year available for the project itself. So it is consistent with what the allocations were. And as I said before, they will be short unless they come up with some innovative programs to recycle gray water, build a water desalination plant, or some other method working with the water district to provide for the water that they'll need.
So if they need 1,000 acre feet, they have 180 acre feet unallocated that will be used for this project. In your grid, you have the project relies on, quote, other water source will be assured to meet project demand to be consistent with the authority's development resource management plan. What are those other water sources with specificity? What are they?
Well, I see Sherry's got her hand up. Maybe she can save me here.
Okay, Ms. Damon?
Thank you, Chair. Member Morton, actually, I'm going to make a couple of corrections. There's a water supply assessment for this project. The actual water demand of new potable water is approximately 487.4 acre feet. Of that, 441.6 is a potable water demand and 45.83 is recycled water demand. What this project did is, as part of the water supply assessment, there are a set of long-term projects to implement a long-term water supply plan for this. So what the city has done is the city has gone into implementing that plan, which involves taking reclaimed water and injecting it and spreading it as an in-lieu storage project on our Seaside golf course. So you may have heard or seen that, which is how you have it. So you have the water supply assessment, you have a 441.6 of a water demand, and then we apply our potable allocation that we have remaining, plus we have additional recycled, plus we have a condition of approval that requires this project to be built at the time the long-term water supply comes online to be able to allow it to be built. And that's how the water demand is satisfied in this particular instance.
And what is that long-term water supply that's going to be built? What is it?
It's already built. The Monterey One has a reclaimed water project that is delivering reclaimed water currently. And when that water is available, the city will be purchasing up to 450 acre feet a year and putting it onto our golf course and creating an in-lieu water credit in the Seaside Basin, which will then be wheeled back to and through the Marina Coast Water District to supply this project, among others.
Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you. Director Oglesby has his hand up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Chair, I just wanted to chime in and say, of course, I'm in support of this project. We've been waiting on this for about 24 years. The FORA board needs to remember that we spent about $6 million of FORA money to take down some buildings on that blighted land, those hammerheads, to prepare for this campus town. I believe it meets all the requirements and consistency. And I really chimed in at first when we were talking about prevailing wage. Seaside is committed to prevailing wage, require that payment on Fort Ord land and within the Seaside itself. And right now, I'll challenge any other land use jurisdiction to do the same. We have enough water. The water will be solved by either a desal plant or Monterey One water, and I'll leave that up to the Coastal Commission and CPUC. But we all know by time this phased building will start, water will be on the peninsula, or we all will be have a lot of trouble. But I think we all know either it's going to be a desal or it's going to be Monterey One water. And so there's more than enough water for this project. So I thank the board and look forward to its approval.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Director Phillips.
No, I just think it's an exciting project, and I obviously support it, and I think it's Seaside's waited a long time to start their development, like Marina and other ones have. So I'm very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from board members before we hear from the public? Okay, not seeing any hands going up, so I will open it up to the public. Is there any member of the public? Mr. Cheshire, I see your hand. Please.
Thank you, Chair Parker. On behalf of the Monterey Santa Cruz Building Construction Trades Council, we're very well aware of the language that the city used in regards to Bakewell and KB, in regards to that prevailing wages will be paid either because of the labor code or if there is a deed restriction and covenant on it. That doesn't exempt, if this is passed through consistency, it doesn't exempt Seaside from having to comply with the consistency ruling and with the reuse plan and the master resolution and such. So we're very aware of that. Seaside has waited a long time, has worked very hard to get this project going. We're in full support of it, and we're looking forward to working with the developers in regards to putting local people to work. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Any other member of the public wishing to speak on this item? I'm not seeing any hands going up in Zoom, but I'll wait another little bit to see if people need to find the button. Mr. Metz, are you seeing any other hands? Okay. All right, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for further discussion and action. Anyone interested in?
I'd like to move approval of the staff recommendation.
And I'd like to second it.
Consistency.
Thank you. A motion by Hoffa, seconded by Gagliotti. Any further discussion by the board? Yes, Mr. Hoffa, did you want to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I just want to say I think that this is exactly the kind of project that that the former Fort Ord needs. I think it's going to be very beneficial to CSUB. I'm also happy that it's going to be prevailing wage, and I also note it's going to include 20% affordable housing. Mr. Bakewell's a developer that's known in the community, and I'm just, my congratulations to Seaside, and I hope this project begins soon.
Thank you. Any other board members with comments on the motion? All right, seeing no hands being raised, Mr. Tregenza, would you do a roll call vote for us, please?
Supervisor Jane Parker.
Aye.
Supervisor John Phillips.
Aye.
Supervisor Mary Adams.
Aye.
Councilmember John Gagliotti.
Aye.
Councilmember Frank O'Connell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gail Martin.
Yes.
Councilmember Alan Hoffa.
Yes.
Mayor Ian Oglesby.
Aye.
Councilmember John Wizard.
Aye.
Mayor Mary Ann Carbone.
Aye.
Mayor Joe Gunter. Councilmember Cynthia Garfield.
Aye.
And Councilmember Janet Reimers.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And it may even have passed unanimously. Is that correct?
It
That's
did.
correct.
It did. I figured, if I might just say, I wish all our meetings could be so unanimous. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you, everyone.
we wouldn't appreciate it if it happened all the time. So, yeah. Great. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Let's move now to general public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to comment on any item not on today's agenda? You can raise your hand in the Zoom meeting using the raise hand button, or you can raise your hand the old-fashioned way. And Mr. Cheshire, you are the king of the old-fashioned way. Please go right ahead.
Well, thank you. It's just because I can't find that blue participant button. I don't know. Okay. I think this is probably an appropriate time to inform you of something. You know, a couple of years ago, the California legislature passed SB 1. It's an infrastructure bill that was to provide monies for California road infrastructure throughout the state and such, and via gasoline tax. A year or so ago, we had an election, we upheld that tax. Well, what I want you to know is that there were $25 million in training funds to promote training for individuals to get into the construction trades. Monday, June 1, along with our partner, the Monterey Workforce Development Board, and our co-partners, the Santa Cruz and San Benito County Workforce Development Boards, were granted $576,000 to educate over 150 individuals over the next 2 years in regards to the opportunities in construction.
Right.
In the various trades, to show them what the trades demand, what sort of, what you need to have, okay, to get into the trades. We're looking for good men and good women. And we're going to be looking at all the jurisdictions within the area. And I most certainly hope that in spite of past administrations in the areas that really did not take a look at including local business and local employment for local individuals on the projects, that we really take a look at that and provide opportunities for young people in this area, opportunities that are extremely needed and wanted by them so they can continue to live here. So we'll be talking to you at your independent jurisdictions, but I thought it was a good time for you to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's good news. Any other members of the public wanting to speak on items not on today's agenda? I'm not seeing any hands going up where I can see them.
Schlossberg's got 2 hands up.
Wow, okay, go for it then, Mr. Schlossberg.
Well, I just want to say that with the actions of the Fora board today, approving the assignment of the EDC agreement to the final deeds and authorizing the executive officer to sign the documents, after 25 years, this may be our last participation in a Fora board meeting. And I wanted to congratulate everyone on this call and the board, and I want to thank you for the trust and confidence and support you've given to us over these many years. And I could not be more pleased that we are at where we are today. And I want to thank you all very much so.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks for those comments, and thanks for all your work on behalf of Fora and our smooth and legal functioning. So, and I hope you're seeing there's some clapping hands and things going on the screen, very fancy. Great. Any other public comment on items not on today's agenda? All right, I will close the general public comment period. Are there any items from members? Seeing and hearing none, that brings us to the portion of our agenda that is known as adjournment. So thanks.
The hand
May I
wave.
say one thing first?
Oh, yeah, yes, you may. Director Garfield.
To our two lawyers, you gentlemen have been a pleasure, just a pleasure. Thank you for everything you've done for Fora. And I know that there are lots of people with lots of things to say, but I just wanted to jump in and thank you, George and Barry, for everything you've done for us.
Thank you. It has been our pleasure, and we've enjoyed, I mean, Michael over the years and Josh recently and Stan and the entire staff has been a pleasure to work with. Thank you very much.
I would say a lot more, except you get in trouble when you compliment attorneys.
No, you don't.
Doesn't happen very much.
Next meeting is, you want to say our next meeting?
Yes, so thanks, everyone. We will see you next week, June 11th at 2 o'clock. Is that, can't keep track. Yes, okay.
That's right.
All right, 2 o'clock next Thursday. And thanks again for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.